just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of life, and I need you to survive.
Everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, your brother, and your friend Rasheed, and this is another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries. I want to take the time out now to thank each and every one of you for joining me on this platform and for giving me your time, because you did not have to give that, because we know that time is the most valuable commodity. And I just want to let you all know that I really appreciate the time that you are spending with me and the time that you have shared with me. I like to go into the truth because it's time. Let's talk about the war. It's time to be heard. Okay. So in this edition of the Red Pill Diaries, War Talk, we're going to address a few issues. The geopolitical ramifications of America's intransigence. We're going to address the economic ramifications of America's intransigence and hubris. We're going to address the toll that it is taking physically and mentally on not just the American people, but also the global population. All right? Because to get a good understanding of what a berserker nation is, a nation that is constantly at war, one has to dive into all of these aspects so that you can see a sharp picture and see it as it is. You understand? So now, shout out to Will W. Gilchrist in the building. Shout out to RJ Sparks, shout out to Spice-Man, shout out to the Blue Pill family, shout out to did I say RJ? I'm sorry if I did say it. I say it again. It's all good. I thank you all for joining me. Shout out for everybody who was watching, who's not in the chat. Thank you for joining me on Rumble. Thank you for joining me on the Red Pill Journals. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate it. Our sister channel, the Red Pill Journals, and this is the Red Pill Diaries. Thank you. So again, we've got to understand the magnitude of what is taking place, because I hear and I see a lot of people talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, and I hear and see a lot of people talking about how Trump is being dragged to and fro, and that Benjamin Netanyahu makes all the decision and Israel does this. Shout out to Brooke Chin in the building. Makes all of this, and I'm telling you, and I said, he who pays the bills, right, runs the show with that, right? And what we see is a system ripping itself apart. You don't know where's the head, you don't know where's the tail, you don't know where's the body. You know, the dog cannot be wagging the tail if the tail is wagging the dog. So all of this stuff, you're getting fed a steady stream of crap, okay, of absolute garbage, because let us understand, Joe Biden once said, when he was in the Senate, well, he said a lot of crazy stuff, but one thing he said, that if there was no Israel, we would have to create an Israel in the Middle East for our interest, for the United States interest. Well, who created Israel? Was it not the UK and the US and France? Who created all of these nations in the Middle East or West Asia? Was it not the colonial powers? Why did they do that? It was not for peace. It was for war. Listen to what I'm telling you. I'm going to show you a pattern here. when we look at the balkanization of the African nations, and we look at the balkanization of what they deem as quote unquote the Middle East, we see a pattern here. When the when the colonizers come in, they rob, rape, and pillage, right? And they set factions against factions in order to step in as the peacemaker. Now listen, if I started the trouble and I said you at variance with you, and then I write down a proposal and I say, listen, this can be beneficial to both of you guys, and you both accept that proposal, even though I step back militarily or even somewhat economically, I rule both of you because you are to adhere to the writings or to the agreement that I put together, the colonizer. So what they do, they leave little semblances of grievance between each one so that they can fight and not be unified and can be bribed and can be coerced into doing what the West wants to do. Let me give you a good example of that. Look at what happened with Pakistan and India. Look what happened to China and India. You think that those border issues were there just by happenstance or just by just a throw in the wind? No, this was left there so that later on, when it is revisited, the wrong that was done, when it is revisited, those nations would have to look to the people who divided that area and caused that to come up with a solution. And if I come up with this, if I cause the problem and I come up with this proposed solution and I make both of you adhere to this solution, both of you agree to it, and here's the ramifications if you break the solution, then in reality, I'm still your boss, right? Because I get to say, what is the ramification of this? Who violated this and who did this and who did that? This was intentional. Everywhere you go, there is a trail of this, from North Africa to, look at Europe. Didn't they balkanize Yugoslavia? Huh? Aren't they now dealing with the ramifications of imperial hubris because of the balkanization of the Yugoslavian nation? What about the balkanization of Hungary? Aren't they dealing with that now? When they balkanize or balkanize Germany also, and Poland also, aren't these nations trying to grab a little piece of something else? This is when the chickens come home to roost. And now you have everyone at variance because of the greed and the hubris of Western colonialism, thinking that I'm above everybody else and I think better than everybody else, and my plan should be your plan, even though you're not a civilizational nation. We got to talk about this. Again, let's talk about the war. We have to talk about this. It's time to be heard. Because without understanding the underlying issues, you can never come to a solution. Okay? Brooke Chin said, is Trump planning to invade Cuba after the Iran war ends? These rumors are about that. I wouldn't put anything past Trump. And if Russia would allow it, they would be a fool. Because Cuba is Russia's trump card. I know Russia doesn't need Cuba in the way that it needed when the Soviet Union arose as a bulwark against American imperialism. I know they don't, because they have the hypersonic missiles, right? And the hypersonic missiles can reach such and such area quickly and do this, but still, that is a strategic area on the chessboard. America doesn't need Ukraine. That didn't stop America from doing what she did to Ukraine, as to start fires on Russia's borders. See, Russia is thinking rational. Russia's thinking rational. America is not thinking rational. And sometimes to make a person understand you, you have to learn the language that they're talking. Because if I'm talking Hebrew, if I'm talking Arabic, and you're talking German, and I'm trying to convey, hey, the wrong that you're doing to me, and at every turn you ignore all of my overtures, even me trying to learn a little bit of what you speak to get my point across, because I see that you're not meeting me halfway. And this is very important to my security, to get my point across. I'm going to go the extra mile and learn German so that when I speak to you, I can speak to you definitively, so that there will be no misunderstandings about the reaction that you will incur if you make these sets of moves, right? If Russia allows that, because remember, Russia still has a refueling supply base there. You say, well, that's thousands of miles from Russia's shore. Yeah, but what if Russia goes and say, you know what? I'm going to turn that back into a base. Before the America attacks, let me go and deploy a nuclear sub and two Kula class subs there, and 3 destroyers. You say, well, that is no match for the United States. And then they fly in those two Swans, those long range nuclear carrying bombers. And after that, maybe a couple weeks later, they fly in some Su-34s and some Su-35s, right? And they leave them there. Tripwire. Isn't that what America is trying, and Europe trying to do with Russia and Ukraine? A tripwire? Well, what's good for the goose can also be good for the gander, right? And with today's technology, you don't have to build a military base there. Just deploy your ships there. Just deploy a few warplanes there. They should have done it with Venezuela. But what's going on with Russia, and why Russia is allowing America to do this, and they're more reactionary, is because Russia, and let this not escape anybody's mind, Russia still wants to be number one. I don't care what anybody says. America wants to be number one. Russia wants to be number one. China wants to be number one. African nations want to be number one. Other European nations want to be number one. Latin American nations want to be number one. Asian nations want to be number one. It's just clout, okay? But Russia is strategically trying to hold back, because they understand that with America, especially a rabid nation in decline, they would do the unexpected, and it would force Russia's hand. And remember that America and Russia, they're still after each other to be the dominant power. I don't care how much you dress this up. They look at things geopolitically, strategically. All right. That's why Russia and China and the global South are trying to cushion America's fall as to not allow her to just go berserk and just use nuclear weapons. Nobody wants to be number. You don't run a race to be number 2. You don't run the race. You don't train all year long, hoping that you'll come in 17th. When you go and train for a championship fight, you don't go into that fight thinking, hey, it'll be great if I come up short. Neither are the nations and the leaderships of those nations thinking that. They may utter it, or if there's many positions for everybody in this and that. Man, come on, stop this. Come on, stop it. In reality, one nation will have a little bit more say than the other nation. And if one nation has a little bit more say than the other one, then what does that make it? Right? If it has the edge, even if it's not trying to command and control the world like America does, does, even if that nation has a slight edge. What does it mean? That in reality it's the number one nation. So all of the nations are vying for that position. So why would you allow America to take another piece off the chessboard that could be, you could use that as a bargaining chip? You used it as a bargaining chip in the 60s when America put those Pershing 2 missiles in Turkey and in Europe, when you deployed your nuclear weapons to Cuba. Why would you allow America to take that piece off the board? It's a no-brainer. You would defend that. And defending doesn't mean that you have to load up a whole bunch of troops and a whole bunch of weapons to Cuba. No. Guess what you do? Do what America does. As thou hast done, so shall it be done unto thee. America openly supplies intelligence, satellite photos in real time, what they call actionable intelligence. They have people on the ground commanding troops. They openly state that they're going to supply money to Ukrainian Nazis. They openly show and state that they're going to give weaponry to Ukrainian Nazis to fight Russia. Okay. You set the precedence. Now I'll follow your cue and do likewise. Now, if a couple of S-400s pull up in Cuba, a couple of upgraded S-300s, maybe about 30 or 40 Panzer II systems, 3 or 4 Buck systems, right? About 200, 300 shoulder fire missiles, right? And what is the Wagner group called now? I forget what it's called, but send a few of them in there, all right? Transfer to Cuba, because Cuba already has experience flying Su-27s, the older, upgrade the Su-27s. Give them to the Cuban Air Force. Then tell Cuba, hey, listen, we understand that we can't finance you like this, but guess what? We know that there's a large deposit of oil and gas there. Do like a win-win situation. What we'll do is put this on our budget, these weapons, and in return, let us dig for oil or mine for gold or whatever, and give us a 22% share in this. And this will then secure your economic and military lifeline. And it'll also help us economically, because now we have a customer constantly where we have to sell weapons to and maintain those weapons and all of that. And then we can go in and invest in the infrastructure and all of this. It's a win-win situation. And then transfer a couple of those warships. Say, listen, sell them there, transfer them there, and say they're under Cuban command, even though you have Russians selling them. Isn't that what they're doing in Ukraine? Isn't that what they did in Georgia? Isn't that what they're doing in Iraq, Syria? Common sense. It's not so common in today's world. But if Russia allows them to take Cuba off the board, absolutely war is inevitable. So, because one thing that the Russians are, they say they're slow to mount, but swift to ride. But when you're dealing with an empire, a berserker nation, you have to deal with the reality of who they are. How in the world can you negotiate with a non-agreement capable nation? When you go into talks with them, just go into there with talks, not expecting anything. Because what they're doing is trying to buy time, so you buy time to do what you have to do. Don't expect agreements. And if you get an agreement, don't expect it to be honored. Because they don't honor agreements, regardless of presidents, regardless of administration. because of that. They don't honor agreements, and the history will bear me witness. Did they honor them, the Native Americans? Did they honor them with Black America, the ex-slaves? Did they honor them with all of the nations that they signed agreements with, whether it was Morocco back in the days, whether it was any other nation? They honor the agreements. Hell, America has pulled out of all of her international obligations, even though it is against her own constitution. Because remember, according to the U.S. Constitution, that when America signs an international treaty, it becomes U.S. law, and it is only subject to the Constitution. You know that, right? All these constitutionalists, you know that, right? So America, by pulling out of treaties that she signed, she broke her own constitution. Nobody said a word. All of these pro-American patriots and Fox News and all, why haven't you uttered a word about that? Because you understand that the masses of the people are ignorant to this stuff. And you have a vested interest in continuing empire. This is the deal. And if you see a little smoke coming past the screen, that's me burning sage. Okay. You see? Sage. Excuse me. I try to always burn sage when I'm doing shows. I don't smoke, I don't drink, never smoke, never drink, none of that stuff like that. So no. Don't eat chicken, don't eat pork, don't eat beef, none of that. All right. But I'm just letting you know. And these are things that I did myself over the years, and not I think I did stop eating beef as a bet with my wife, I believe, when my son was one. When my son was one, I believe, I said, you know what, I'm gonna stop eating beef for a week. And I told her, I think I could do it for 2 weeks. And then I said, you know what, I think I'm gonna try it for 3. And then 3 weeks turned into 3 months. And then 3 months turned into 3 years. And now my son is 22 years old. Never ate chicken. Never ate chicken. No pork. Stuff like that. So, but yeah. Again, if Russia allows that ship to be taken, then what comes is what comes. America will never yield. This is the thing that most people can't get in their head. When you are a berserker nation, as a matter of fact, while I'm talking to you guys, let's pull up some things, okay? Like we always do. All right. First of all, she's always trumpeting peace, right? Peace through strength, right? How about peace through peace? How about peace? The only way you can have peace is through justice. Because when you do justice and you do right by people, right? See, I've been in situations in my life where I knew that God was there with me because of some of the things that I could have done wrong, but I did right. I was in some of the walked through some of the toughest neighborhoods or some of the roughest areas, and never even flinched, never got harassed, never got nothing. And then when it looked like a confrontation would come or something like that, I understood that I was out of my element, and I watch things. I'm very observant, right? And I realized that if you're patient and if you watch things and if you rely on God, He'll walk you through those situations unharmed, and you'll wind up being respected and liked. Because that's in your character to do that, right? So according to the word peace, because we need to understand what peace is, because we always have this nation trumpeting peace. We want peace in the Strait of Hormuz. We want peace in the Sahel. We want peace in Venezuela, peace in Latin America, right? All while bristling the barrels of guns down the throats and the necks of other people, right? Right? So according to the AI overview of the word peace, peace is a state of harmony characterized by the absence of hostility, violence, or mental conflict. Now, stop right there. If a nation has been at war since its inception, 250 years, how can we take what they say for peace seriously? That's just like if a person was going around raping women every day, right? Or conning people or scheming people or committing the most heinous crimes. And then say, hey, you know what? I'm a changed person. I'm not doing that no more. And then 3 hours later, they're doing it again. And then they say, hey, listen, I'm changed. I've had my come to Muhammad or come to Jesus moment. I'm not doing it. And then you see it again 5 hours later. And there's a pattern there that common sense tells us that that person is inculcated with the ideas of what they're doing, because the ideas, right, when they saturate your mind, and if you're not disciplined enough, your actions will follow the ideas, right? So according to the definition of peace, peace is a state of harmony characterized by the absence of hostility, violence, or mental conflict. Can we truly and honestly say that this is a part of American culture? Can we say that this is a part of Western culture? Can we truthfully and honestly say that this is a part of American policy and politics? According to the definition, not according to what we want or what we believe or what we think or what we hope for, but according to the definition. We got to say no, no. So when American leaders talk about peace, you have to take that with not a grain of salt. You have to take that with a salt manufacturing company. Because their actions, their policies have shown us time and again that peace is not what they have. Yeah, they're after peace, but they're not after P-E-A-C-E. They're after P-I-E-C-E, a piece of your territory, a piece of your economy, a piece of your wealth, a piece of your mind, a piece of domination in different areas of the world. That's the peace that they're after when they talk about peace. They're after P-I-E-C-E, not P-E-A-C-A-E. That's the peace that they're after. I'm going to get a piece of your business, a piece of your resources, a piece of that. That's the peace that they're after. Okay? And it says, let's go a little further. It says, it operates on multiple levels. Externally, so if we look at her on an international stage, has she proven to you that she's after peace? We can emphatically say no. Now it says, it operates on multiple levels. Externally, as an end to war or public disorder, and internally, as a sense of tranquility. Look across America. Is that applicable to her domestic situation? And if she is not at peace within and not at peace without, then we can say that she is suffering from the sword within and the sword without, because she is under the burden of maintaining an empire, which is a debt expansion scheme, which is a bloodlust scheme. So she cannot be for peace, according to the definition, not according to me. Not according to me. The definition, right there. I didn't make this up. It's right there. So, again, shout out to Perseverance Chameleon. We had a good channel member and Patreon stream yesterday. It was real good, wasn't it? And it went longer than what we thought, but it was real good. I enjoyed you guys there too. I really enjoyed you guys. So Somebody's talking about what I eat. What do I eat? Let's see. Is it, is this video showing twice? Was watching this and only one there, so came here. Oh, you may have been on the sister channel. You may be on the sister channel, the Red Pill Journals. All right. So you were let's see, salam to you too. So now let's go to something. See, I like to prove what I'm saying. Again, I often say you got to prove this stuff to people, because if you don't prove it, they'll just think you're just spouting out their mouth. They'll believe people who has connection with government, but they won't believe a person who comes from the bottom up, who has gone through all of the stuff that they're talking about, and who is trying to share their experience. As my mother said, experience is sometimes the best teacher. We're streaming on Rumble. We should be streaming on Rumble. And we're streaming on the Red Pill Journals, the sister channel. This is the Red Pill Diaries. We're streaming on the Red Pill Journals, and we're streaming on Rumble if they're not interrupting the streams, okay? Because we triple checked last night, and then my son came in and he rechecked the stream keys and everything. So if they're not streaming over there, it's not us, okay? So excuse me. Now let's go to something, because we're talking about that. We got to get an understanding. You notice I called America a berserker nation, berserker, and I got that from a movie that I watched a long time ago, and I believe a cartoon a long time ago. I think 70s, something 80s. And this person, they called him a berserker because he was so violent, and like he would backstab you at the drop of a dime or something. He was a berserker. So I always wanted to know what it meant. And so when you hear me calling somebody this, or something this, or some nation this, or some leader this, there is something to what I'm saying, okay? So now, when you put in the term meaning of berserker, or berserker meaning, right here, so that you can see, hold on, let's see. Okay, right there. It says, including results from berserk meaning. All right, then it goes down. It says, search only for berserker meaning. Then the AI overview says, berserker is a term originating from Old Norse, referring to an ancient class of elite Scandinavian warriors who fought in a trance-like, uncontrollable fury. Today, it is used to describe anyone acting in a recklessly violent, frenzied, and crazy manner. Stop right there. Is that not America? Is that not NATO? Huh? Are they not berserker nations? Berserker leaderships? I'm asking. Because it's time to talk. Let's talk about the war. It's time to be heard. The truth must be heard. If we continue to dance around these problems and not address the core issues, you'll never cure the cancer. You cannot cure the cancer that's eating away at the body of the host by ignoring the symptoms and putting band-aids on it, or taking some Robitussin for it. You have to find out the ins and outs of what is eating at you, its strengths and its weaknesses, its patterns, so that you can formulate a treatment plan to weaken, then ultimately remove that cancer from the host's body, okay? Seriously. So, I thought it was too. I thought it was too. It came to my mind. I said, America, and I used this in other shows. I said, America is a berserker nation. Maybe I should give them the definition of what berserker means. to understand the mentality, the policy that you see, not just America, but the Western world. Look at, if you don't believe that these people are berserkers, how more berserk can you be than to antagonize the largest nuclear power on the planet Earth? How more berserk can you get by cutting off free cheap oil and gas, which runs your industries, because you're pissed that they won't bow to you? How more berserk in the mind can you get by saying to the power company, we're not going to pay you in your in what you said we should pay you in. We're going to pay you in our money. That's like you going to the power company. The power company sends you a bill and say, hey, look, I want euros, or I want dollars. You owe me 500 euros, or you owe me 400 what is 500 euros is like $560 or something like that. You owe me $560. And you say, nah, listen. I want the power to keep coming, right? But I have a new Xerox printer over here. And I always wanted my face on my money. So I'm going to give you 100 drachmas that I just made up. How do you think that would go for you? Before you can hang the phone up, your lights will be off. No? So America thinks, and Europe thinks, that they can do to others what others can't do. They think that common sense does not reign when it comes to them. The hell you mean? If I tell you these are my resources, you don't get to price them in your money. You don't get to tell me that I have to sell my resources to you in your currency. The hell you mean? Either you accept my terms or you freeze to death. That's how that goes. You will spend X amount of rubles on this. You will exchange your currency or whatever to buy rubles, and then you'll use rubles, and we'll hold the money that you exchanged in a bank account to make sure that everything is straight. And we want a little bit more because we know that you don't have anything back in that, right? So as we hold it in escrow, we want something tangible behind it, so that you can't just sanction us and then nullify the value of your money. After you get our resources. See, I continue to tell you, the Western world thought of the greatest scheme known to man. When I get paper, okay, oh, money is too heavy. Holding gold and silver coins, you just can't take them with you in your pockets. You just can't do this. And you see, that was a scheme. They understood. They wanted convenience. Sometimes convenience is not always the right way. When you're trying to lose weight, it may not be convenient. And hard workouts may be exhausting, but they're conducive to you losing the weight. Convenience is not always the best thing. So when they unhinge that, they say, you know what, I got a scheme. I can get this paper. I can put color on it, put all of these beautiful designs on it, say that it's bagged by something, put my leaders and my heroes on it, and then I'll say that your resources are worth X amount of these. Once I get your resources, I refine them and sell them back to you at 5 times what you sold them to me. And you have to keep a reserve of my money to buy back your resources that are then refined. And if you piss me off and you don't follow my dictates, I'll quote unquote freeze or sanction your assets, nullifying the value of them, but I already got your resources. Man, This is a con artist scheme at its greatest. At its greatest, right? Everybody, you know I'm telling the truth. You, you guys know I'm telling the truth. I'm making you look at it in a way that you shouldn't, that you should have been looking at it a while ago. Right? So now, since we talked about the berserker, let's go to something else. Let me try to pull up something real quick. So you notice I use this phrase on on a lot of my shows. I used it a lot of the times, maybe a year and 2 years, 3 years ago. But other people started using the term, so I backed off a little bit because they were bigger channels and they started getting more recognition for saying it. Even though if you go back, it started here. A lot of the stuff starts here, but it is what it is. So I start telling you that this is bizarro world where up is down, down is up, in is out is in, left is right, and right is left, right? Because they just make up facts as they go. They just make them up. And if you don't agree with the set of facts that they just brought out of thin air, then you're the lunatic. So let's look at what Bizarro. Remember, Bizarro is the backwards Superman, right? In the comic books, Bizarro is the backwards Superman. Superman's world is a sphere. Bizarro world is a square, right? Superman gets his power from the orange sun. Bizarro gets his from the red sun. You understand? All of this stuff. But they were hinting at something. So let's go to the definition. Okay, let's put it back. All right. Hold on, let's see if we can get all right. So let you see I pull this up. Bizarro, according to the AI overview, bizarro is a slang term used to describe something that is outlandishly strange, weird, or the exact opposite of what is normal or expected. We had Mark Root talking about Russia has lied to us at every step of the way. And in reality, it's been Europe lying to Russia. It's been Europe lying to Africa. It's been Europe lying to Europe. It's been Europe lying to West Asia and Asia. It's been America lying to all of them. But in bizarro world, I can just make up facts. And what I did to start the war doesn't matter. Oh, you're looking back in history too far. You're looking back too far. You notice every time they suffer a tragedy, they want to honor it, right? 9/11 shall never be forgotten, right? The Civil War. Now, looking back to the Civil War, they honor that. Looking back to the War of Independence, they honor that. But when you throw in the horrors in between all of that, that's DEI and that's trying to destroy American history. No, that is opening up American history for the world to see it. You want to see everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. How you put in your history books that the first slaves came in 1619. But in reality, if you go to your Library of Congress, the first slaves came in 1555. And they came on a day that you would always remember. April 1st. What is April 1st, everybody? April Fool's Day. Go look it up. And they came on a ship called Jesus. These people are insane. And when they hit the ground, whoever survived it, they killed the men. They opened up the bellies of the pregnant women, let the babies drop down and smash the babies. This is written in their own Library of Congress. This is not me. So when I open up and tell you these inconvenient truths and say, well, hey, if Jeffrey Dahmer was a murderer like you say he was, and if this person was a serial killer like you say he was, then isn't that applicable to the people that did that? If it's not applicable to the people that did that, then you have two sets of rules and justifications for two sets of people. And this is not justice, and this is not history. This is your story, not his story. You understand? So, again, I have to tell you these truths because nobody else will. These are inconvenient truths. And I'm passionate. So now, it says, bizarro is a slang term used to describe something that is outlandishly strange, weird, or the exact opposite of what is normal or expected. Isn't it strange that America is trying to dictate the terms to Iran when she lost the war? Isn't it strange that America is trying to dictate terms, Europe is trying to dictate the terms to Russia as Russia continues to advance in Ukraine? Isn't it strange that Trump would go to China begging for a handout while also having a policy that openly states that they want to surround China and Russia and Iran and subjugate them and prevent them from breaking out to be America's near peer or peer power equal? Huh? Only in bizarro world. I'm going to hold a gun at your head and then I'm going to ask to borrow money from you. How many friends can you make doing that? I'm going to go to your house, kick in your door, slap your children around, have at it with your wife, and then I'm going to say, hey, when you pull the gun out, hey, peace. We need peace talks. We need peace. I'm after peace. I need peace. And then every time we sit down, somebody try to mitigate and somebody tries to tell us, look, we need to talk about this. You pull out your little knife and you're stabbing my son in the side, like with a shank. And then every time I talk, I tell her, hey, listen, he's violating the terms that you set out, Judge. I'm the bad guy when I'm forced to react to defend the honor of my wife, to defend the honor of my family, the livelihood of my family. This is bizarro thinking. This is what American in the Western world thinks. America decapitated. First of all, America decapitated. A decapitation strike. She used a decapitation strike on Iran. Now, if that were me, I would have let loose. And then, these are hypotheticals now, because I don't want the government to come knocking at my door, because they've already knocked at my door yesterday, day before yesterday. What was it yesterday, Nicole? We had yesterday. We had to deal with them yesterday, day before yesterday, something like that. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but out of the blue. But check this out. Now, America uses a decapitation strike. First of all, in Lebanon, to me, the Iranians were foolish not to react then. I kept saying that to everybody. I say, this is a test. America does things at stages to see what reaction she's going to get. She did it to Russia. Look how far she's pushed Russia. After the decapitation strike, remember, in negotiations and had agreed to terms with Hezbollah, they killed Nasrallah and his crew. After negotiating with Hamas, right? They assassinated the negotiation team. Then they started negotiating again with them, and they assassinated the next team. Then they negotiated again, and they assassinated the next team. And now they're waging all-out war. Look what they did to Syria. And then Iran enters into a talk with them on nuclear negotiations. Man, listen, the problem is you're trying to prove that you don't want nuclear weapons. You don't have them. They're saying it, and you're trying to prove that you don't want them. You've proved it. You don't have them. You have the capability. You have the resources. You even have the uranium and the plutonium. If that's not proof enough, tell them to go to hell. And then you should flip the question back on them. Why are you putting the pressure on me? People say, well, Israel has nuclear. No, forget about that for a minute. Aren't you a signature to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty? And in that treaty, all nuclear weapon states must disarm. You've had decades to do so. So before you come to my door knocking to see if I have a slingshot, go in your closet and take all your guns and take them apart and take the bullets out and destroy them. Let us verify that you no longer have chemical weapons, biological weapons. You've used them. You've given them to others to use them. Let us verify that you no longer have nuclear weapons. You're the only nation to use them. So all of the verification should be on the nation that has used them, that has employed them as a part of their war doctrine. America has a first strike doctrine. Right? That is all. Again, let me give you an example. You know I'm the king when it comes to giving you these examples, these things that you can really relate to. It is almost like putting the onus. You got the videotape. You saw the guy go into the woman's house. You hear her on the videotape screaming, help, help, help. He's raping me. The camera is pointed in there showing that he's pulling her clothes down and he's slapping her. And I don't mean to be vulgar, but I want you to, because sometimes we have to go into this like this. And then when the police arrive, the police pull the guy whose pants are down, who has scratch marks all over his face, who is breathing hard, who is clearly had intercourse. They pull him to the side, give him a blanket, a cup of coffee, and put him to the side, and then go in there and badger the victim. They are watching the video, and they're badgering the victim. This is what the West is doing. Iran, you will not be able to convince America because America already understands that you don't have. And I think that's a flaw. Because if I were you, I would have gotten them. And then when they wanted me to disarm, okay, I'll disarm. I promise you I'll disarm after you do. Because you are the one who has been waging war your whole history. I need this to protect me. You want to give all of your allies weapons. You want to allow all of your allies to arm. You want to arm yourself to the teeth. You don't want me to give any of my allies a slingshot or a spear or a knife. And then you want me to throw away whatever rocks that I have that I can throw at you to buy time to run. Man, you've lost your flipping mind. And these people sit there and negotiate this foolishness. Well, your proxies, America is 7,000 to 9,000 miles away from Iran. You've got to stop aiding your proxies. You stop aiding yours. How about that? How about you remove your military facilities? Not just your military facilities, but all of these big embassies, all of these CIA outposts. Stop funding insurgents groups. When you show us that you're serious about that, then maybe we'll take a look at your demands. But we live in this neighborhood. You can't come from California telling us what to do in this neighborhood that is 2,400 miles away. It's not conducive to sound and rational thinking. You understand? Oh, man, let's go to something real quick. So look, they said that the Iran war cost $2 billion. Then they upped it to $2 billion. Then they upped it to, they upped it to a few $1 billion. Then they upped it to 20, anywhere from 15 to 20 billion. Then they upped it to 25 billion. We're going to find out because we're getting ready to put this in the search engine. Okay? We're going to find out what they say. Now put this in your search engine. The real cost of Iran war. And put it in your Google search engine. You got it? Okay. Sometimes I don't pull the things on the screen is because I'm trying to make a point and I might have to go to something else and I don't want to be stuck here, stuck there. I want to be able to move quickly. So that's why I'm giving you the exact words that I'm putting in the search engine. It's not hard to do. All right. So the AI overview says the true cost of the U.S. war with Iran is a subject of intense debate. So that means that there's no definitive answer at this moment. Why? Because it's ongoing. And they have not done full accounting of the war, right? And it goes further and says, with estimates. Listen to this. So all of the previous estimates go out the window. Remember, the highest estimate was $25 billion, right? So now, according to Google AI, all of that stuff that they were telling you is garbage. True cost of the U.S. war with Iran is a subject of intense debate, with estimates ranging from $29 billion in direct Pentagon spending to over $1 trillion when factoring in long-term economic and human impacts. $29 billion. Do you know that you could have alleviated homelessness and still had $9 billion to invest in education? If we took the lowest estimate, you could have eradicated homelessness. So we talk about a defense department that is not defending the needs of the people. Because charity starts at home, then it spreads abroad. Right? So you're willing, we're going to just take the bottom estimate of 29 billion for a minute. With 29 billion, you could have remodeled hundreds of roads and bridges that are dilapidated. With $29 billion, you could have injected that into the educational system to up the standards of America's poor and corrupt and declining educational system. With $29 billion, you could have paid on the debt that you owed to the ex-slaves or to the Red Indian. With $29 billion, you could have helped single mothers and single fathers eat. With $29 billion, you could have helped veterans who are struggling, who are homeless, who are suffering from mental deficiencies, who need some type of help after coming home from your imperial wars. With $29 billion, right? You could have helped alleviate the debt burden from your college students who will become your future senators, congressmen, lawyers, doctors, scientists, stewards. And with $29 billion, you could have fed the entire nation. Does it seem like America's priority is on her national security? Because if the house is falling down and hold on one second, I'm getting a beep here on the okay. If the house is falling down, then what use is it you staying there? You want your house in a livable condition. Home is where the heart is, right? I was taught that heaven It's your home. When you have when you are in agreement with your spouse, and your spouse is in agreement with you, and you are in agreement with your children, and vice versa, that is heaven. You don't have to die to go there. You can have it in real time because you're not worrying about the worries of the world on the outside, because it is so comfortable within. That is a heaven. They taking me off the air, bro. I tell you what, you guys are tripping. I guess I'm starting to piss a lot of people off. But as my mother would say, it's better to get pissed off than get pissed on. So, again, $29 billion. Think about that. Think about that. You could have alleviated homelessness. 20 billion to alleviate homelessness, 20 billion to alleviate hunger. So if you would have took the 29 billion, all that would be left is $11 billion that you would need to just completely eradicate homelessness and hunger across America. Is that not a national security interest or need? No. You gotta go into another place and tell the people how to live and what they can and can't do, as if you're God. And you're alienating the people. As a matter of fact, let's go to a few videos, okay? I want to show you just how bad things are getting, okay? All right? Listen to this.
This is a culling. 2/3 of Americans are cutting back. I want you to keep these two things in mind, because with the third one is where I really want to hear from you. So, Lions, when 2/3 of Americans are cutting back because of rising prices, that means the system is forcing households to choose what survives in their budget. I use these words for a reason. And what gets eliminated. Today, the Conference Board data says that 2/3 of consumers are cutting back due to rising prices, with many buying fewer items and delaying expensive purchases. Okay, this is how an economic culling, well, works, but it's just getting started. The stock market today, again, floating near record highs, and Main Street is forced to shrink its lifestyle, okay, but life. Let's do this. So that's the first piece of news on our booming economy that the White House says it's nonsense if you're complaining about it. Now, here's a second piece. Lions, financial stress levels on middle-class American families now exceeds the COVID crisis era. Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. Lions, across the board. Here we go. Balances, delinquencies, affordability, bankruptcy, foreclosures, household sentiment have now exceeded, all of that has exceeded that of the COVID era for the American middle class. And it's about to get even worse.
So the word exceeds means to surpass. To surpass. So while you're spending at minimum $29 billion to prosecute and persecute a war of choice, because you are scared that somebody may break away from your payment system, your dollar hegemony, your military primacy, your political system. You're willing to shed blood, destroy nations, while your own nation is imploding at home. See, we got to talk about it. Nobody, you talk about the bombs and the guns, but nobody's talking about everything. Let's talk about the war. It's time to be heard. If you think that's something, let's go a little further, okay? All right? We're going to go a little further because I got a couple more clips I want to play for you guys before we go off the air, so I'm going to have to do them in rapid fire as I explain to you guys. So listen to this one here, okay?
Lions, middle class wipeout. Sound familiar? Okay. Foreclosure filings are blowing up, and home mortgage trouble is out of control. I couldn't think of a better word for that than trouble. All right. The numbers are incredible. Bear with me on this. Lions, again, this is another contagion lane. Energy, inflation, our flatlining economy and everything connected to it is blasting household. And I wrote blasting again in caps, all caps. Late stage home mortgage delinquencies and foreclosures are skyrocketing at a staggering pace. The middle class wipeout is now caught directly in the crosshairs of contagion and Lions. The numbers are staggering. Here are the numbers. U.S. properties foreclosure filings in Q1 2026 are up 6% from Q4 last year and up 26% from a year ago. Lions, read this slowly. I'm going to read it to you guys slowly. Foreclosure starts were up 20% year over year, and bank repossessions are up 45% year over year. Now, take this one in. 878,000 loans are in severe late-stage delinquency or foreclosures, up 25% in 4 months. Lions, these numbers are depressionary stress signals. And the worst part, I'm going to just show it to you. It's just getting started. And now that we have wholesale prices in...
So it's just getting started. The worst is yet to come. All right. It was something I just saw up in the chat. Lisa said, "LOL. I think I hit it off with your mom." Yeah, my mom was something else. That was my heart, my soul. That was my girl. And she didn't mind putting me in a place. It's even now. Like she would put me in a place, especially if you said something about her or to her grandchildren. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And my son, my baby boy, you couldn't say anything to him. He can't do anything wrong. Oh man. And she would bring up everything when you try to say something. She would bring up everything you did when you were small, so that man, my mom was something else. I'm telling you this. Anyway, I love her. I mean, I am the man that I am today because of her. My father passed away when I was 14, 15 years old. But he played a good part of my life. My mom never remarried or whatever like that. So, um, my pops he was something else too. I remember he was something else. He told us the guys, hey, me and my two brothers. He told us, you either learn martial arts or you fight me. Because my father was like a fifth degree Dan in Yoshikai karate, so we had to learn at an early stage to fight. Man, my pops was something else. But let's get to something. Um, uh, he said trouble. He said that's a very important word. So we go to the dictionary. The AI overview says the word trouble broadly refers to anything that causes difficulty, worry, inconvenience, or distress. It can act as a noun to describe a problem or a verb to describe the act of bothering or worrying someone. So now we understand that we are in a worrying situation economically. Economically. Now, America continues to expand. See, the only way she can continue to go is to expand the debt. The system has to expand. The system has to continue to feed upon something. It's a parasitic system by nature. Capitalism is parasitic. It feeds upon the ignorance of others. It feeds upon the resources of others. It feeds upon the labors of others while making a very few rich and the masses subject to the laws of the rich. So the system, to continue, it must find new host bodies. It must find new resources to consume. Therefore, we are now looking at America spreading her wings, her tentacles further and being more open about it now. Once it was about freedom, it was about justice, it was about equality, it was about human rights, it was about democracy. Chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, Iran is a threat, her proxies, her missiles, as if America doesn't have missiles. You see, the hypocrisy is beyond belief, right? But I want to play something for you. I never heard this clip, but I want to play this clip to see what it's about because I downloaded this clip. It's a short clip. And it says Western elites still trapped in colonial thinking. So I want to play this clip. I'm going to be hearing it for the first time with you. I did not, I promise you, I did not hear this clip before, but I'm going to play it for you for the first time with you guys.
Well, while the European empires of old may be long gone, the condescending attitude of some in the West to other nations hasn't gone anywhere. That's the view of former British diplomat and author William Mallinson.
It was unprofessional sensation-seeking, which is highly unprofessional and undiplomatic. And I'm surprised she was allowed to get so near him, actually, by the lift. And second point, and very important, is that the Norwegian Prime Minister refused to answer questions from Indian journalists, apparently. Now, this stinks of a major hypocrisy, because the Nordic countries always pride themselves on their sort of press freedom. As their economies are being slowly undermined and destroyed, for reasons we know very, very, very well. Take a look at Germany. They're all going down, and they know it, but they don't know how to get out of it. I call that post-colonial rigor mortis. And because they once colonized much of the world, including China for a while, and they haven't got out of it yet. They haven't shaken themselves out of the past. India is far too big and far too old, and actually in many ways, some ways more democratic. And I would imagine that the country so powerful will be able to maintain relations with everybody.
The point here, he says that the European, and while he's talking about the Western nations, are collapsing, and they don't understand how to get out of this cycle. So they still have the colonial mind of I'm better than you, or that you must adhere to what I say. The right thing to get out of this, listen, when you're wrong, or if something is wrong, it needs to be corrected. If you're doing a math problem and the math problem is wrong, to correct it, you first have to find the right answer. I know in school, when I was in school, they would make you show your work, how you arrived at that answer, right? So when we're dealing with the Western world, they need to take a look at how they have arrived at the answers that are governing their policies and their attitude towards everybody, because it's wrong. Because when you show your work, it's easier to find out where you took a turn from. It may be one little small thing, and if you correct that one little small, carrying the one or doing this or whatever, then you could right that wrong and come up with the right answer. The right answer is not just to apologize for the wrong, but also to make amends for the wrongs that were done. You cannot tell me that you cannot pay reparations when you are paying for color revolutions, when you're paying for R&D, or research and development of the most dangerous and the most destructive weapons on the planet Earth. You cannot tell me that you cannot pay reparations when you continue to transfer wealth from the poor and the middle class into the hands of the wealthiest. There's no way you can justify that, but you can find money for war. You can always appropriate money for war bills, war spending, more weapons. It doesn't make sense. So if you're telling me on one hand you're sorry for what you did, and I'm telling you the way to correct that, and you're telling me that you can't correct that, and we're looking at all of the possibilities of the way that you correct that, then you're not really sorry, you're not really remorseful. What you're doing is looking for an expiation, a way out. You're looking for some kind of curtain to veil your true thoughts and your true intentions. And that's no longer plausible today, because the world has you at its fingertips, and you have the world at its fingertips. So it's easier. We can see you for what you are. If I'm not a superstitious person, but listen, if I said, listen, and I robbed the bank, I said, I'm no longer robbing banks. And I go before the judge and I'm crying and I'm saying, listen, I'm sorry. I did this for my family. And I'll pay restitution. I'll do X, Y, and Z. I'll do anything to make amends. I only the bank truck had the armored truck had $30 million in there. I only took what I needed for my bills, because if not, I was going to lose this and my family would be out on the street. I'll pay restitution. I'll do this. I'll do this. Now, the judge may sit there and say, you know what? He has a point there. So let's see if he's serious about this, and give me the opportunity to make amends. Now, what if the judge gives me the opportunity to make amends, and I go out there, and the next thing you know, another armored truck was knocked off. I was in the area because they pinged my phone. They see me with new sneakers on. They see me driving a Jaguar or driving a Range Rover or driving a Mercedes or a Bentley. I didn't have the day a couple days before. And then they see a couple weeks later, another armored truck was knocked off and $10 million was taken out. And now I have a private jet. Was I remorseful of my actions? No, because I kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. I could say I'm sorry, but how far does sorry go? I tell my children this. I say, listen, sorry doesn't always fix the problem. All right? After a while, sorry, if you're doing the same thing, sorry doesn't matter. Because there are ramifications to what made you sorry. And you have to make amends for what you did. My daughter, my 16-year-old, she said, Dad, you know what? You're right. And now I look at it, I see that. So these are only the lessons that I learned from my mother. But I learned them a little sterner. Man, my mother would, okay, yeah. Say you're sorry and do something. Okay, all right. Yeah. Do something else. And my mother, when my pops passed, my mother had to raise 7 children. You know, and she, all of us, we respected my mom. The boys that learned the martial arts, we never disrespected my mom, because my mom would give you a 2 or 3 piece to the side, to the kidneys. If you stepped out of line, if you thought you were big and bad, and you thought that you could disrespect her. So she demanded respect. Therefore, when we were sorry, we were sorry. And that's what the West has to understand. This is no longer the age of colonialism. If you want a way out, time is ticking. You have to right the wrongs that you've done. Just saying I'm sorry is how is it that you can steal resources, steal lives? Look at what Leopold did. Just because he got pissed one day, went into the Congo and slaughtered 10 million people. They were even parading some of the bones in the heads of people and some of the jewelry in museums. How in the hell is that contrition? You listen, to make a way forward, you've got to go through the brushes and forge that way. It might be thorns pricking your side and all that, but you've got to go through it. You've got to accept the wrong that was done. If not, there can be only one outcome: collapse, destruction. and history best rewards those who research. Look at the nations that became arrogant and wouldn't apologize for the wrong that they did. Look at the nations who robbed, pillaged, and raped and colonized other nations through the prism of history, not through the prism of race or religion, but just through the prism of history. Look what happened to them because of the hubris. This is what the world should be looking at. Salute, Hogo. Yes, Capitalism is a problem. It's one of the main problems, but the entire system is the problem. Because capitalism just didn't pop up. Capitalism popped up out of a system. Systems don't just pop up. Systems pop up out of the minds of people. All right? So, you have to, first of all, I want to show you the arrogance and the blindness and just how inebriated the Western world is, the leadership. I want you to see this. You and I can see that there's a shifting wind. You and I understand that there's a new paradigm. You and I see an old world dying and a new world coming in. And yet the same people who ruled the old and benefited the old and had these elbow brushes where they pass power to their comrade and this and that, they still demand to lead the new. Now, if you are still inculcated with greed, with exceptionalism, with I'm better than you because of this, if you were to get a chance to lead the new, eventually over time, you'll change it to the old. Right? Have you ever gone to a person's house, right? And the house was kind of dirty or cluttered, right? And you go in there and you offer help. And then my brother was talking, as a matter of fact, shout out to my brother Chris, my brother right over me, my brother Chris. He was talking about this because we were talking about a person on the other side of town. I forget. But we were talking about this. Shout out to him. So this comes to me. This is his analysis on it. So we went, you offered to help clean out a refrigerator, and you offered to help the person that clean up the house. Okay, you get the house cleaned up. You get the refrigerator cleaned up. And you go back a week later, and it's cluttered up again and messed up again. Right? That is because it's up here. It's cluttered up here. Right? So the Western system comes from up here. You have to not only remove capitalism, you have to remove the capitalists, the financiers, the investors, those who truly believe in that system. Because if you leave a weed to grow, the weed will spread and choke out the garden that you're trying to grow. So you got to remove all of that, because you can't leave it to chance to destroy the new yard, the new garden, right? Is that not right? Because if you make a mistake and leave a very invasive weed in your garden, what happens? Eventually it chokes out the fruit, right? And the vegetables. Is that not right? You know I'm telling the truth, everybody. So there has to be something outside of the reins of people who rule. Trump can't be the leader of this new thing. Starmer can't be the leader of this new thing. Van der Leyen can't be the leader of this new thing. It has to be something outside of their grasp, outside of their influence, outside of their political touch. Because they are the Medusa of politics. Anything that looks at them turns to stone. So you can't come in contact with these political and economic Medusas. It has to be something altogether new. So let's go back to a clip, okay? Listen to this. I want you to listen good to this.
In the early stages of decline, empires look outward. They blame enemies, rivals, scapegoats. But in the late stage, all eyes turn inward because the rot becomes impossible to ignore. If America in 2025 is being threatened by China or undermined by Russia, It's only because it was first hollowed out by its own political and corporate elite. The empire is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to find out two things. Okay. Because it's very important that we understand the meaning of words and structures of sentences. All right. So she talked about the rot. Remember, don't I tell you guys about this all the time? It's amazing how a lot of people now are talking about these things that I've been telling you about. So according to the AI overview, the word rot refers to the natural process of organic matter decaying or decomposing due to bacteria or fungi. It can function as both a verb to the act of decaying and a noun, the state of decaying. Now, why are we looking at America waging war? Why are we looking at the system melting down? Why are we looking at debt, the debt burden growing? Because this is a natural byproduct of this parasite that has leashed upon the world, right? The capitalist system, the so-called Western dominated rules-based system, all of that is unnatural. And according to science, any unnatural thing that enters a natural environment must be removed or so that the natural can return to its former state, or both the natural and the unnatural die. So what we're watching is the death of an unnatural system. Do you understand this? This is why I give you definitions so that you can argue with me, but you can't argue with facts. The facts will be the facts. Okay? So it says rot refers to the natural process. So what is going on is a natural process. You don't think it's natural? History best rewards those who research it. Look at what happened to republics, with nations, with empires that exceeded the limits. And think about America. Her debt burden is the greatest debt burden in the history of the world. More debt accumulated in America than all nations in the history of the globe. Look at her intransigence. Look at her war stance. She's been at war since her inception. You don't think this is unnatural? If no other nation, no other empire has been this berserker or this violent, this arrogant, this full of hubris, and this inebriated on exceptionalism, and then the natural way of life is detaching itself from that unnatural parasite. And what we're seeing is decay and rot. We're seeing a collapse, a state of permanent decay, according to the definition. Also, she says, and then the empire will look hollowed out. Let's go to that. Let's go to that real quick. Okay, I'm pulling it up so you guys will see. Okay, so AI overview. See, I do this on the fly to show you that it's common sense. This stuff is common sense. Yet common sense is not so common today. But look what it says. Hollowed out. According to the AI overview, to hollow out means to remove the inside of an object or area, leaving only the outer shell or creating an empty cavity. Stop right there. Haven't I been telling you that while she's waging war here, it's imploding here? While she's over there, the rot becomes more systemic at home. While she's sweeping the porch of someone across the water, trash is piling up on her front porch and in her living room. Huh? So she's being hollowed out. And those in power are only concerned with power, wealth, and influence. So guess what they're doing? They're not thinking of a future for you. They're trying to think of how to pass down power and maintain power with the elites of them, the younger ones. So what they do, They go on a censorship program of censoring truth. They go on a program to shut you down. They go on a program to propagandize you, to dumb you down, so that you are no longer a threat to what they're doing, to their policy, and to their interests. But what they don't realize is that they've set thermite to the base of their republic, thermite to the base of their nation, and thermite to the base of the empire, which is soon to blow when the wind blows on the wick of the dynamite. That's what we're watching. I give you definitions so that we can understand this. Because I know some people say, why so much definition? Because without definition, you don't understand. People talk to you, but in reality, they're talking to somebody else. So I give you these definitions so that it'll resonate with you. And sometimes definition make you grasp a word just a little bit better, grasp a sentence just a little bit better. All right. So before we go, let's do a couple more short clips, okay? I've had you here for for 1 hour and 30 minutes. And I didn't mean to have it this long, but I don't like to clean the house and leave the garbage in the garbage cans, okay? Since we're cleaning the house and we're talking about the war and its costs, we've got to understand what is really taking place. And here we go.
The United States is an empire in decline. And if you look back over the past 100 years, the lessons of history are pretty clear. Declining empires suffer from two things. One, they suffer from what's called micro-militarism abroad. They send troops abroad, in their flailing decline, thinking that some form of military intervention will recapture the global power that is slipping away from their hands. And then domestically, the other thing they suffer from, every single declining empire over the past 100 years, the Soviet Empire, British Empire, the Spanish, all the rest, they suffer from coups. So as American politics become increasingly contorted and irrational, I think the thing to do is to realize that we are an empire in decline and we are writhing in this kind of irrationality, particularly in the international realm, and it will continue for another decade or two until the American power finally slips away.
So you see, I'm not just saying this. Other people are now joining or jumping on the train. They realize what is going on too. Shout out to Phobos in the building. They realize what's going on too. Now, before we go, remember, they tell you that there's a correction underway in the oil markets, the bond markets, which are the debt markets, right? The derivative markets, which are those bets on top of bets on top of bets. They're telling you that there's a correction, a political correction going underway. There's a geopolitical correction underway, right? There is something of the greatest magnitude that is underway that they don't want to put in simpler terms for you to understand. So let us understand what correction means. Because remember, if you need correction, that means there's something wrong. There's something crooked. There's something out of whack. Because if it's correct, you don't bother it. So listen what AI Overview says, and you'll see that I pulled it up on the AI Overview. I don't know if you, let me put it back, AI Overview. So look, the word correction is an action of fixing a mistake or changing something to make it more accurate, right, or standard. Now, this goes hand in hand with what? Decay and the rot, right? The systemic rot and decay, right? That is happening. It is rotting and it is decaying because the system is unnatural, right? Are we not right on this? So there's a correction underway, a natural correction to remove that which is impeding true progress. true freedom, true justice, and true equality. So what we're watching is, in layman's terms, the change of worlds. That's why they talk about climate change. That's why they talk about all of this other stuff, because they've toyed with the weather so much. The weather is correcting itself. They've toyed. They're always trying to experiment on God's creation. God gives you water, they tell you smart water, right? God gives you soil, they want to put more nutrients in the soil, telling you that this is better for it. They want to experiment on everything as if they are the gods. So what is happening now is that we are at the end of that experiment, and the unnatural is being removed through a natural process. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, your brother, and your friend Rasheed, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you who spent this time with me. And I hope that you have gotten a greater, equal or greater return on this. And I want you to always remember to do right by others, not because there's some material gain to be had or because of some accolades. Do right by others because it's the right, the humane, and the godly thing to do. Because even when no one else is watching you, remember that God Almighty is watching you. As my late, great, and beautiful and wonderful mother would always say, God sits high on the throne of power, but he looks low at the actions of man. Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that the divine supreme being, God of freedom, justice, and equality has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, remember to stay righteous, because righteousness is the only thing that's going to get you out of here. Hey, mama, look at me. Your baby boy is representing you. I still love you more than life. Deuce.